Thank you for tuning in to a couple of Keemers podcasts. I am your co-host, Francesca. People call me Frankie.
And I'm your co host, Christopher. People call me Chris. So today we're going to start off with attitude
Attitude
of
of
gratitude.
gratitude.
And what are you grateful for, Bag?
Um, I am grateful for a lot of things. I think today I'm just grateful for um, healing because I am continuing to heal. I do have my surgery soon, God willing. So I'm just grateful for healing and strength and our bodies, how amazing they are, and how amazing they are at healing themselves. And the healing process is just, I've witnessed it through other people, but going through something myself that requires deep physical healing has been very much so a roller coaster, but I am just grateful for healing today. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for us still being able to have date nights in spite of the pandemic and just enjoying each other and watching our favorite shows or going out for ice cream. It's nice just to, sit there in the car, listen to R&B music and eating our dessert and just enjoying each other. So, yeah, I'm grateful for date nights that we get to have. And I'm also grateful for just time and using it wisely with you, with family, friends, and people that we care about. That's what I'm grateful for.
Okay. Sounds good. I echo that too.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So, yeah, with that being said, today's topic is social media for certain age range.
Yeah, social
Oh
media
boy.
and who is it for? Who uses it? Who should it be for, in our opinion?
Yeah.
And all the above.
Oh boy. So,
I feel like I'm very passionate about this.
yeah.
You you agree to an extent, but I feel like I'm the one that's more passionate.
Yeah, no, I won't argue that. That's true.
So then I guess I'll start. So how I feel about social media is, so I'm talking the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the TikTok, the all of them, but especially Facebook and Instagram. And really especially Facebook because that was probably one of the bigger social medias to like take off for the masses. There's definitely been other social medias and sites probably I never even heard of or used, but I feel like Facebook is pretty, even still, a big deal. And it's kind of tested, time and has lasted. I think the younger generation has strayed away from it quite a bit. They're really into Instagram or TikTok, um, Snapchat, things like that. So when I say younger generation, I mean Gen Z. They don't tend to use Facebook like we do. But also on Facebook, you will find people who we consider our elders. And though all social media, including Facebook, is great to stay in touch, and I do appreciate it for that, I do think that it is best suited, I'll put it that way, it's best suited for millennials. And the reason why I think it's best suited for millennials is because we remember life without the internet being in our home, as well as we were at that like crucial learning stage and age when it came about. So, and then when social media came about. So we like we grew into the internet, not like grew up with it, because Gen Z is the first generation that doesn't know life without internet.
Yeah.
So, like in the home, easy accessible internet. So we got like the best of both worlds where as children. So like of course older generations know life without it and know life with it, of course, just like we do, but we got it at an age where we could like grow and understand, and like we get the basics of it as well. Where I think the missing piece for the older generation is they don't understand the basics, because when it became a household or a common thing or in the palm of your hand type situation, it was just like crash course. They don't understand. This is way beyond anything that they were like working with in the office, and it's just a whole nother level of technology. And I think some of them accept that and they deal accordingly, but then there's others who are just on these social medias. They're confused. They be commenting on stuff thinking they're sending private messages, and it's just like a mess. And then I think also the whole idea of like as you grow older you should mature. Well, if you ever thought that and you're friends with people that are Gen X, the boomers, and those, that's it, right? That's X and boomers are the only ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you will learn that that's not necessarily the case. So if you didn't already know, now you know, because they kind of act like kids on there. And then they just don't understand the etiquette. Like, no, do not post a picture of you in front of my car with my license plate. No, do not post your ID on Facebook in any capacity. Like, they're just so easily fooled. And so easy, like they just don't understand the repercussions, almost like kids. And this is a generalization. This isn't, I'm not saying no one in Gen X or none of the baby boomers understand, because there are some well trained, well ingrained, and they understand it in the capacity that I believe that Gen Y, the millennials, do. But yeah, and then so with Gen Z, I think that they are, I mean, it's inevitable because the internet is what it is. We rely on it, but I just think they just don't understand also, same as the older generations, they don't understand the seriousness of the internet, but in like a more immature way. So they tend to, from my observations, they tend to um, just be reckless on there in the way of, like bullying. I mean, and trust me, millennials do too, but it's just they're easily exploited because they're young, and they're easily fooled too, but in a different capacity. Not the same type of tricks that will fool, the older generations fool the Gen Zers, but just I think that their mind just gets too warped, and we fall victim of that too. But it's like, oh, how do I put this? It's just a level of immaturity, no fault of their own. They're just growing up. So I think that for that reason, because you can have internet without having social media. So I'm talking about social media. I think that the perfect candidate for social media are millennials, because we grew up with it, but also without it. And when I say grew up, I mean in our formative years, in the years where you're making your foundation. We have a mixture of our foundation without internet and with internet. Therefore, we understand it completely. Where I feel like the older generation doesn't, because they were already very mature in their thinking when social media came around, and the younger generation, Gen Z, doesn't even know life without it. So, for that reason, I rest my case. Social media is for millennials.
not not Gen Z or the older generations. Well,
It's not best suited. Obviously, people can do whatever they want to do.
yeah,
I'm not trying to, be. some crazy dictator on who can and who could not use social media. Um, but I just think it's best suited for millennials.
I think when it comes to like posting certain comments that older generations may do, like with certain gifts or certain memes, things like that. I think it's hilarious when they might post something that's inaccurate of what they meant or try to reflect. I think stuff like that is funny and it's hilarious. We can laugh at it. But that's in regards to comments. When it comes to like the certain post and having certain things shown, like you said, with like license plates or like an address or things like that, that's when it bothers me and it makes me more concerned for them because they
Right.
don't understand.
Right. It's more concern factor. I think on both ends for me it's a concern factor.
Well,
Like I'm concerned about the kids.
I am too to an extent, but I guess it may be because I've just had experiences with the younger generation that's in my mind somewhat negative as far as yeah, just being young and dumb and immature to the point where it's like you can't even have a sense of reason with some of the younger kids, and it's like I don't even try anymore. I'm like, you know what? You're gonna be dumb anyway, so I'm just gonna let you do what you're gonna do.
Well, yeah, I guess.
And I guess that just comes from me being over 30. Like I'm,
Ooh, you're over 30.
like I, a little bit over 30.
Barely.
So for me, it's like, hey, I'm not trying to come at you as a parent. I'm just trying to like, hey, you might want to take that down because you're showing blah blah blah. And if they come at me like, man, you old, or man, you
Yeah.
stupid, I'm just like,
They think we're so old, which is so funny to me.
it's hilarious to me.
Like, I'm not old yet.
No.
I mean, I'm older than you, but I'm not old.
But I guess anybody born 19 something is old because if you're born
Right, if you got 19 and your birthday, you are now officially definitely over 21 and can purchase alcohol. They don't even
Yeah.
need to check.
No.
They don't even need to look farther than the one.
Nope.
That's crazy.
It is.
But, I mean, it's life.
Yeah, but I do think with older generations, I tend to view it as a concern mostly for them because I think about like scam phone calls and things like that where they, people prey on older people, the elderly, etc. It's like preying
Because they're
on
naive to it.
them. Right.
They're not used to a generation of, or a world where so much is easily falsified.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are.
Right.
And Gen Z is too. They're hip to that type of falsification.
Right.
But
And
I think they're just easily preyed upon by savvy adults who are predators.
True, but I also think too, like when you talk about sophistication, like sophisticated scams and stuff, like I feel like a lot of the younger generation, some of them are part of that scam, or
Us too.
yeah, us too,
Millennials.
us too. But I guess I just view it as, and again, going back to what I was saying about some of the negative experiences, is like if you can't really tell some of them things like, hey, don't do that, you putting your business out there, you at risk. It's like, well, if they're gonna call you old and argue with you and tell you what you don't know what you're talking about, then I'm like,
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it more. I guess in a way, what I'm saying is I tend to have more sympathy for older people, and maybe because I've had older parents
Well, yeah.
and older people, I tend to view it as that scam thing and preying upon. Like you said, you can still prey upon the younger generation in different ways, and they fall for stuff too. But I guess my thing is, you know what? You so smart, you dumb. And I guess that tends to be my attitude with the younger generation versus the older ones. So I tend to feel more sympathy for older people than the younger ones because they know so much.
But I think that's your average, like, growing preteen teenager.
Yeah.
That's just how they are. I mean, not every single one, but in general, that's teenage years summed up. They think, I mean, I remember thinking I knew everything. Now, I didn't go around being disrespectful to adults because I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
I was the one that'd be like, yes, yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. And then walk away and be like, she don't know nothing. He don't know nothing.
Right.
But I wouldn't disrespect them
Yeah.
and make them think that I thought they didn't know anything. But I did have those thoughts.
But I guess to me, I tend to look at it a little different, only from the standpoint of the technology and social media. It's one thing, like we were growing up in the 90s, we didn't have Snapchat, we didn't have Instagram, it didn't exist. So, putting stuff out there and posting pictures and showing your ID, that stuff, we didn't have that opportunity to do that. The only way we could do that is if we actually literally flash it in front of people. We didn't have that, but I feel it's a little different.
We did have that.
What?
I mean, when Facebook came about, we were almost in college. We were still teens.
Yeah, but I meant like even when we started high school though in 2003 for me, like
MySpace.
oh shoot, I forgot about MySpace.
Right.
But I never used it, so that's probably why I didn't think about it. I never
yeah.
used it.
Oh no,
I
I
didn't
was
think
big
about
into
it.
MySpace.
I didn't use it.
My MySpace was fly. Okay, my
Mhm.
top 8. It was a big deal.
Right, and then I think too, depending on who your parents are and how they raised you, I could say like for me, that was always a thing for me in my home where it's like, be careful what you put out there. Now that's the internet. My mom didn't fully understand Facebook, social media stuff.
Well, yeah, I think our generation was more like very. We would put the fear of internet predators.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole thing of like kind of sexual assaults or like kidnappings. Like, oh, don't be giving your information out. Like, you're like, don't let anyone know where you are, type thing. Like, who you are, how young you are. Like, just don't be talking to other people. What was kind of funny and ironic to me is they're the ones who be clicking the links in the emails.
Mm-hmm.
The,
Right.
the boomers, they be like, oh, yeah, I said I got an Amazon gift card.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Now they have more than just Amazon gift cards. They bought a bunch of Amazon gift cards on your dime because you clicked the link, put in your address, and last 4 of your social, thinking you got Amazon
But I mean, like,
gift cards.
when you hear about like these people, during the pandemic and people going out in California committing, these unemployment scams and stuff like that.
But I think those type of scams existed before, just not as
They
easily.
did. But what I'm saying is now, when you got a lot of these social media accounts with a lot of these Gen Zers doing this, I see, and I'm not saying it's just them. It's everybody. It's some of us in our generation too. But what I'm trying to get at is that it's like some of these same younger generations who, on one hand, they don't want to fall. They're not going to fall for the scam calls and stuff like that. But yet they would sit up there and post stuff that they buy.
Yeah. Stupid.
That's what I'm.
That is very Gen Z.
I mean,
To flash. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some of us do it too. But for them, it's like a no-brainer. It's almost like it's just a natural thing to do. And for me, I don't do that. I know you don't do it. And I know some of the
And
people
especially, I would never do anything crooked like that. But if I were to, I definitely wouldn't be
posting
running
it
to Facebook. Like, I don't have a job, and then all of a sudden, I've got designer clothes, bags galore, a car, all these things I never had before. I'm not going to be putting that on the internet if I'm doing something crooked.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the difference. And stuff like that, that's why I tend to have more sympathy, because our generation, I just think, was the last generation to quote unquote have a little more sense about things. Whereas this generation now, they don't get it. Like, who told you that it was okay and safe to go to Instagram Live and post and flaunt all this cash that you got in a scam?
Yeah. But I have hope for the future that most Gen Z were raised by Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
So Alpha is the next generation,
Yeah.
and they'll be raised by us. And we have the sense about the internet.
Yeah.
So I think Gen X, definitely, I'm sure that most of them did their best. But once again, it's still that gap of already being in your mature thinking once social media came about. And, they were the ones that had to get hit to the parental controls. And, it was like a learning curve. So with us, we know all the ins and outs.
Oh yeah.
And we knew before, like I keep saying, we knew it without it, and we grew up with it and without it, all in the same, you know, decade and a half, all that rearing. We got a good mixture. And I think that with that comes a lot of internet or social media maturity and etiquette and appropriateness that the older and younger generation lack, from my experience,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that's why I just think those born millennials are ideal social media candidates. But just like with anything, there's always going to be bad eggs, bad apples, whatever you say.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm not saying all millennials are fantastic candidates for social media, and every single Gen Zer and every single elder is a terrible candidate. But if I had to make a generalization, I would say millennials, and that's why. So um, I'm very passionate about it, and every time I see it, I'm like, this is why. This is why.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I said, I think for me, I tend to be more passionate about the younger ones because, like I said, with those few experiences, and then even in a negative sense of like you said with committing scams and things like that, it's just like even when not committing scams, it's like why do you want to post it? And to me, like I said, I'm just like you digging the hole for yourself. But you don't want to listen. You young. You think you know. You doing what you want to do, and that's fine because that's the normal thing for kids, teenagers, young adults to go through. But like I said, I just think it's different when you grow up with the internet. All you know is this, and you don't even realize that you're putting yourself at risk. Versus when it's an older person, they want to share a picture of something that they got as a reward or an award or something like that, and they don't realize that the address is on it. That for me, I have more sympathy for
right.
because I'm like, hey, so and so, like, no, you wanna, block that out. I'm like, oh, well, how would I do that?
Put your
Oh, can
finger
you?
over it.
Oh,
That's the easiest way without actually editing. You just put
right,
your hand over it.
right. Or they might say, wait, isn't there something I can do to black it, to black? And when it comes to that type of response, and like I said, maybe because I grew up with older people, I tend to be more compassionate in that regard versus, someone younger going, who cares? Don't nobody care. Like, whatever, ain't nothing gonna happen to me. Like, okay. And then I'm like, whatever. So that's how I tend to feel about it. But
Yeah. But I always just chop that up to immaturity. I feel like kids in general, whether we're talking social media, whether we're talking house rules, whatever, I mean, they're always, kids just challenge everything.
yeah,
They just challenge it and they just think they know. I don't know. That's just what I chop it up to. But I mean, I don't know. I see
yeah,
I see the holes, the missing parts on both ends. I see,
hmm,
but I think that because of those missing parts make them not good candidates for social media, whether it be their fault or not, whether it be their conscious choice or not. I think that just doesn't make them good candidates. I will say though, instead of just bashing and bashing as I've been kind of doing, but not intentionally, just speaking my heart. Um, I will say that I love it. I love everyone being on social media, um, especially people I know and love, because you can stay in touch. It's a lot easier to stay in touch, even though sometimes it gets overwhelming because I think it's very unnatural to know what everyone's doing all the time. You normally don't even think about these people or wouldn't think about them as much if you didn't have social media, which can be a good thing, but I think just like in our human brains, it can be like very overwhelming and taxing. And like our subconscious is just like on overload because we're just exposed all day, or exposed a lot more than we normally would, depending on your social media usage. But also, yeah, I think just like I like the fact of staying in touch. Um,
Yeah.
and I do think like the newer social medias are more like geared towards Gen Z. Like for instance, TikTok, even though everybody's on it, like the whole joke I think over quarantine was, millennials and old the baby boomers and even Gen X are getting on TikTok because everyone's just at home trying to find something to do. But now it's like we're getting into it. Whereas like TikTok was kind of a Gen Z thing, which makes so much sense because it's like 60-second or less videos, and that's just so them because they have no attention span. They have no attention span, so it makes total sense that this is like a Gen Z propagated social media.
even though
Like,
even though I think TikTok is jocking off of what we had with Vine.
well, yeah.
So
But I mean, we have lower attention spans too than like older generations. It's just getting worse.
yeah.
Gen Z's just worse. Like we're worse than X, and Z's worse than us.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it did jock off of Vine. I never got into Vine. That
Me
was
either.
one thing I didn't get into it. Now I do like the TikTok situation. Getting into it. Follow us on TikTok. A couple of Keemers.
Yes.
Same. All across the board. Um, we got some pretty funny, interesting, cool things you can see. But yeah, I mean, I like TikTok for what it's worth. And I can waste a lot of time on there just like any social media. But I just, Instagram's kind of my happy place. And because it's not so in depth. You don't see rants on there. People rant on Facebook.
Hmm.
I can't. Lots of
No.
people have gotten muted. Overexposure to the news and all the craziness going on in the world. I think there's once again overexposed. Whether it be with keeping in touch with people, whether it be with the news, because everyone's posting it. So when a big event happens, you're gonna see it 10,000 times, and it's just for me overwhelming. So I have to take a step back, maybe mute some people that are more, motivated and post more about the tragedies that happen in our country and in the world. But I mean, it definitely has its pros, and most days I'm glad that it's not just millennials, but there was a time where Facebook was just for college students. Just saying.
Yeah.
And Instagram was just for iPhone users, just like Clubhouse. This is
Yeah.
now just for iPhone users. But we all know, just like with anything else, they're going to have to open it up because they're never going to grow that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to expand it at some point, but yeah, I do think we're probably the best suited candidates for social media because, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it created by someone as a Gen Y?
Mark Zuckerberg?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know what year he was born, but
Not sure on that one. Ask Google.
hey Google, what year was Mark Zuckerberg born?
Mark Zuckerberg was born on May 14th, 1984.
Yep,
Yeah.
Gen Y.
Yeah. He's on the older side of Gen Y though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's on the cusp. Right? Yeah. 84 is on the cusp.
Well, I guess it depends on who you talk to.
Who you talk to. But he's close.
Yeah, because some would say 81 to 96 is Gen Y. So he's in the early.
Yeah, he's
part.
the early stage.
Mhm.
Either way. Yeah. So, anywho, that's our thoughts on that. Let us know what you think. Make sure you're following us and let us know what you think. Comment, because we definitely want to hear from you. If you like this episode, give us a thumbs up and rate us let everyone else know what you think of us. That would just help us out and help us grow. We just really enjoy doing this. And we usually, one of the last things we do is a quote. And the only thing that came to mind today is my favorite quote. And I'll probably quote it for a few times throughout our podcasting adventures. But I just think for today, a perfect quote is there's a time and a place for everything. It's my favorite quote because it just it's so befitting for so many situations in my life that I've encountered. When people confide in me, I'm just like, this is the quote. There's a time and a place for everything. You can't do, or you shouldn't do anything anywhere. There's a time and a place. So I think that's fitting for today.
Yeah.
It's just a time and a place for social media.
Exactly.
And a person. But as we've been doing lately, we should end it with a song association game. How many do you want to do? How many words?
We can do 2.
2 each?
Yep.
All right, then. You can go first.
Okay. Ball.
Ballin', we fly high, no lie, you know this.
Okay, I
That
give you that one.
counts.
Yeah, I give you that one.
That
Okay.
Pop.
Ooh.
10, 9, 8, 7,
Pop chick,
6,
pop
5,
chick.
4,
I can't
3,
think of it.
2, 1. Dirty pop. Oh, sick and tired of hearing all these people talk about. You don't know that song? What's the deal with this pop life? In sync?
Mm-hmm.
No? You don't know?
I know that song, but I don't
Dirty
know it by
pop.
heart.
That was what came to mind. I just saw this carbonated water. Bubbly. Remind me of pop. Ha! 1-0 me.
Okay. Since you want to be funny. Balloon. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I suck. You know what song kept coming to mind? The Yellow Submarine song by the Beatles. I don't know why. You just screamed in everyone's ear. You can't be yelling in the mic like that. You're going to distort the sound, Keemer. Your laugh is not permitted here. What's the song? Can you think of a song on Balloon?
Nope.
that is rude. That should be a new rule.
Okay.
You have to be able to think of a song. Some Balloon. Oh my God. Okay. Candle. Did I do that already?
I don't think so.
I think we did, but go ahead. Candle.
Candlelight in you. You don't remember this?
You don't
I
remember
want
it.
candlelight in you. Oh, you know, okay, whatever.
I'll give you 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4, 3, and 2, 1. Ding, ding, ding. I'll give you a half a point. You didn't know that. What song is that?
Shante Moore and Detroit native Keith Washington, Candlelight in You.
All right,
So
I'll
do
give
it.
it to you. So, we're tied. Tiebreaker.
Oh,
Whoever gets the next one wins.
okay.
Well, not the next one, but yeah. The next one without the other person not getting it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Club.
Really? You can find me in the club. You must really want me to win. All right. Plug. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ain't no sound to plug in it.
Yes, it is.
I can't think of one.
Oops, now I'm distorting the sound. Anywho, I'm the winner. Ding, ding, ding. Queen Frankie wins the crown. Thank you for listening. Make sure you rate and review if you like what you hear.
Also, like, subscribe, comment, and share with a friend. See ya.